Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of BIM Pure Live. I am your host, Nicolas Catelier. I am an architect, a BIM specialist, and the founder of BIM Pure. We've got a great episode today for you. Meanwhile, if you are watching a live today on September 18, 2024, you can type in the chat where you are watching from. And let's jump in straight to today's sponsor before going to the show. Today's sponsor is a Guardian plugin for Revit. This is a Revit plugin to help you maintain your standards and protect your Revit models. And for this sponsorship, Guardian will be showcasing a new feature. And today's feature are the project configurations to preset your Guardian proactive protections templates. And there's over 100 user commands that you can protect and assign different levels of protection. You can monitor, prevent, and guide. Last week, we saw that, for example, you could prevent people from exploding CAD files. And for all the commands that you can see in this menu, the admin can set, for example, all of these, demolish using Dynamo, managing the links. You can set them to prevent users from using this tool, or you can monitor them so you receive notification each time a user use this tool, or you can guide them, which will not prevent them, but they might receive a message with further instructions to make sure that the firm's standards and best practices are respected. You can also, if you guide them, decide how frequently you want to set this. It can be once per session. It can be a couple of times a week. There are also custom interactions. So these are more than just user commands. You can see some of the behaviors up there. For example, when you create a group of multiple elements, when you copy and array elements, when you mirror them. And so the same thing, you can monitor, guide, and prevent all these elements. The most popular, one of the most popular tool in Guardian is protected pins. You know how some of the elements in Revit are crucial and they're pinned, but some users still unpin them. With the protected pins, you can spot an element and, for example, bring up this message like this. So if someone tries to unpin a very important element, they will receive this message telling them, are you sure you actually want to do this? And guide them, and you can even ask for password or prevent the users, or just guide them. It's your choice. You can guide the user, you can monitor them. So that was the feature of the week. I am thrilled that, let me just move over there. Okay, like this. I'm thrilled that Guardian are sponsoring this season of BIM Pure Live. If you want to learn more, the link is in the video description. Next week's episode is going to be with Paul Winter of Parametric Monkey, a BIM consultancy based in Sydney, Australia. The episode is going to be called Rethinking BIM. There's a lot of ground to cover. Paul is very opinionated about different topics related to BIM, architecture, and AEC. We have a lot to discuss. One of the topics I want to talk about him is modular construction and BIM, also CLT and timber, which is something I've been exploring as well. So that's next week, but this is an evening session. Paul is from Australia, so an afternoon session in the Eastern time zone doesn't work for him. So it's a special happy hour, 8 p.m. Eastern. So you can get a drink and join us live next week. All right, what else to mention? If you're not familiar with what we do at BIM Pure, we have a blog and YouTube channel, as you know, but we also have a membership that was launched earlier this year that contains multiple courses about Revit, but other topics related to BIM as well. We're constantly adding new content on the membership, including the Pro template for Revit, family collections, Dynamo scripts. We have upcoming live events for members only. And just something that I wanted to give a shout out to. We've just released this new publication. It's called BIM and Beyond. It's in collaboration with Agustina Aboy, which was a previous guest on the show. And Agustina researched 6 trends, apps, or companies, interesting companies in the BIM and AC tech space. And we've created a list and indicated why these companies or apps are interesting. You should check them out. So that's on BIM Pure blog, so you can check it out right now. All right, I think I've mentioned everything I wanted to say. Before moving on to the guest, as always, let's have a look at the chat. Where people are watching from. We've got someone, Sheer Force 1 from Cameroon, Murat from Turkey, Drew from Boston, Sarunas from London, Jose from Boston, someone from Bucharest, Pierre from North Carolina, Virginia Beach, Fairfield, Connecticut, Algeria, Brazil, from all over. I'm always blown away by all the places people are watching from. Okay, so let's move on with today's guests. There are 2 guests today. The first one is Nick Lima. He's currently based in Massachusetts. He graduated from the Boston Architectural College with a Master of Architectural degree. He has been the Director of Content Development at D.TO since 2022. Before that, he worked at Microdesk as a BIM Solutions Specialist, at Wilson Butler Architect as a BIM Lead, and at Boston Architectural College as a design researcher. And Nirva Fereshetian is the Principal Chief Information at CBT Architects, an award-winning design firm, and she's been there for 27 years. Quite amazing. So let me bring you Nirva and Nick. How are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for having us. Really, very enthusiastic to be part of this show. Thank you for the invite.
All right. Yeah, very excited about this. I had a quick overview of D.TO and what it does with Revit AI details and the application. But I know, Nirva, you're working for CBT Architect and you wanted to come in because you've been involved with D.TO as partnering with them. So how has that been like exactly?
Yeah, so I have an architecture degree and a master's degree in computational design. So I am very passionate in implementing technology in the design environment. And we as a firm are very passionate in helping startups, especially the last 8 10 years. So and D.TO happens to be one of the startups that we are partnering with to sort of implement their problem-solving approach. So our technology stack is, especially in the last few years, has been focusing on automation and AI, but not just on the front end, but also all workflows are under discussion. So D.TO kind of comes into specifically on the detail organization and empowerment of using details during DDs and CDs. So that's where the interest is. And so we're trying to, I feel like as a design firm, not just us, all of us kind of owe it to our startup ecosystem to contribute. Having all these tools, there's no way, one firm can catch up on all of these, but if all of us put in some time and effort to work with the startups and guide them how to solve the problems, I think we all benefit and share that together.
For sure. Can you tell me exactly what is your role as a principal chief information?
I am the chief information. Exactly? I'm the chief information officer. I think we are the size of the firm kind of dictates that everything that technology related is inside my group. So we have the regular infrastructure, business technology, but I am more passionate about our digital practice, which has the design technology, computational technology, and we have included learning and knowledge management in that too. So we are I have tried to stay away from the word IT, but mostly kind of have a digital presence to partner with all groups, all disciplines, and to move technology ahead. Not just something is broken and technology is going to fix it, but more being having a partnership with all of our architects, interior designers, and urban designers to solve problems or enhance our processes.
Yeah, I've heard your podcast appearance
Mhm.
with on Troxel, so that was super
Yep.
interesting, and you described your role exactly in how you see your job. So that's a recommended listen for those of you watching live right now. What about you, Nick? How did you get interested in BIM, and how did you end up working at D.TO?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And it's an honor to be on the show, Nicholas. My BIM introduction was, and where I became passionate about BIM was during college. Actually, I went to the BAC, as you said. And their programs designed to work full time, getting that full time experience, and going to school at nighttime. So the utilization of technology and becoming very efficient in all my workflows was ingrained in my lifestyle for the 5 years that I was at the BAC. So then I carried that into the design firms that I worked at. And then when I went to Symmetry as a BIM specialist consulting at many different firms of all sizes, and then now carrying that interest into D.TO. So.
All right, so I know you have some slides prepared, and it's going to showcase. So I'm going to switch so now people can see the slides right now. Yeah.
Cool. So D.TO designed together, and then here's a QR code. Any questions, small or big, after the presentation, just reach out to us to learn more. So the fruition of D.TO is actually began at a Built conference. The co-founders, Young Jin is a seasoned architect, and Joe Hun, who's a software developer in the AEC, were there at the conference and saw that there was a lot of companies that were developing form finding solutions, rendering solutions, and later phase solutions. But this real challenging phase of DD and CD were lacking technology or tools to support architects during those phases. And Young Jin, being a senior architect in his role in having many mentors, many projects to execute these construction drawings, brought those pain points to light, and the disconnect between architects and manufacturers in the workflow of bringing in content to execute the details. Fast forward a year later, they presented the POC. So they had developed a POC that used AI, an AI agent early on, that recognized your model and produced a detail based on it. And when I was presented that, I was in shock. Actually, for a few days, I had a hard time sleeping. Like, this is the solution that's supporting an AI that's going to support architects during one of the most challenging phases, rather than take over that position in that phase. So that's the background of D.TO.
That's the core idea. Basically, it sees the raw Revit model that's not highly detailed, and it can recommend advanced details based on that model using AI. That's about right.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
We'll see that in the live demo.
Sure. Yeah.
And then we released our first beta version at AIA 23. And then since have been releasing additional features and working with firms like CBT, piloting the software. And one of the things that we're really drawn to CBT is Nirva, especially in her passion for technology and the tech stack that CBT is developing. When we went to their office for the workshops, it's like you can tell that it's engraved in the DNA, that technology is just in their culture. So I'll let you, Nirva introduce CBT.
Yeah, if just before I'll let you go, I've had a discussion with Martin Day last year of AC Magazine, and something he told me that stayed with me is the importance of people in the industry, like you mentioned, Nirva, of helping out startups, because if they don't have guidance, if they don't have feedback, it's very hard for them to improve the software, especially smaller player which don't have, you know, as much funding as Autodesk. Like feedback is so important to them. So that's
Yeah, and
thanks for
typically
being part of it.
yeah, and typically the industry complains about the tool. You know,
Yeah.
we generally complain like, oh, the tool is not fit and it's not doing what we need to do, or it doesn't understand the workflow or the ebbs and flows of a design firm or an engineering firm. But this is our opportunity with this many startups to kind of design that process, so to speak, with them instead of complaining after.
That's
All
right.
right.
Yeah. All right. I'll
CBT
let you go.
Architects is a design firm. We have urban designers, architects, as well as interior designers. We're headquartered in Boston, but we work nationally and internationally. We have an Abu Dhabi office. There's some samples of our typologies. The left one is a lab building in Kendall Square, an office building, as well as some interiors. We do mixed use, civic and academic work, as well as workplaces. So we are strictly A, and we work with consultants, structural and many other structural, mechanical, and all other consultants to collaborate on our buildings. Yes, so I think the way I described it is that we have been looking at automation and certainly AI. Nobody can have any conversation now without having that word in it. But we are looking at it in a little differently, trying to engage the entire office. Typically, the process starts with designers, because I think that workflow is so kind of attractive in a design firm. You know, it's the flashiest thing people do, as well as it's a kind of a one-on-one situation. So hence you know, whenever we ask a firm, are you doing AI? And it's mostly image generation. But we want to move that in every workflow we have. And specifically, I feel that the gains are tremendous downstream when the project teams are larger, and the efficiencies picked up multiplies quite considerably until the building is built. Specifically, DD and CD stages really need, you know, extreme knowledge. There are junior team members that are part of in their learning path in those of becoming architects and having the knowledge of putting a building together. And that is really where we're trying to focus on as part of, we see the potential of D.TO. We are in the very beginning stages with D.TO, but the way we engage with startups really is on promise and potential. We understand that the products are not there yet, but we feel that the idea and the promise is tremendous. And that's why we are engaging with our time and effort with D.TO. We feel like a smart indexing, smart classification of the details will enhance the learning process and empower their knowledge. And I think it's a typical scenario where the senior people are very busy to answer any questions. They generally are on multiple projects, and a junior person is lost on the what detail and how they're going to put it together. And this will save us at least 50–60% of the starting point for them, rather than just Googling here and there or trying to ask people in the office, well, which project has used these details or where should I look it up? And therefore save time on both sides of the equation instead of having the junior person kind of drawing the wrong thing and effectively coming back and fixing it or wasting time waiting to someone's to answer. The potential we see of, automating the detail as the Revit model is built, the integration with Revit model, and also the vendors that are contributing in the D.TO ecosystem. And we're hoping that that will increase. And so it's kind of a one-stop place to do and all the detailing and find your products and find the manufacturers and find how the variations of the details are, and automatically, from a section, have the detailed sub details automatically start building. So that's our first promise, I guess. We are working with Nick and D.TO. We have a pretty long stack, and I think we have seen and I can have the analogy. We worked with Upcodes early on in 2017, and we're a customer at the moment. And I saw the same thing in there. It's just the learning advantage and saving the couple of code gurus that there are in the office some time answering those questions before the serious questions come up. And also housing project information, what project used what and how that was documented. We have worked along the line with TestFit 2018, Spacemaker in 2018, before it became Forma. But I think and at any regular time, we are trying to get everyone involved in the office so that everyone can see and taste. And sometimes there is, for example, we are working with automation with Revit, with Schema. We are working with Giraffe, with our urban design group. So it does make everyone kind of participate in the decision making. And certainly it's not my decision to go with one or the other. It's a collective effort we put forward to have a specific vendor. And I know that there are risks involved from from our offices, from firm perspective as well. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and sometimes the company doesn't stay. There are several companies that have not sustained over a couple of years. So there is definitely a risk involved, but I think the reward is huge when all these startups that are coming online and trying to solve, if I can contribute in a dozen tools and other offices can contribute in dozen tools, I think the sharing and contributing in the ecosystem and asking them to design the products with our intent rather than just designing and then us, like I mentioned before, complaining that it doesn't work the way we want. And I think that we are hoping, down the road, other elements like carbon footprint or the material properties and all of that come into play, because currently you are asking the TTO asking where the building is climatically location wise. So I think with that in mind, the promise is pretty powerful.
I am curious, are you using, what are your thoughts regarding AI, generally speaking, in the industry? Is it there are actually tools that are using AI that use at CBT on a daily basis? I'm sure some of them, but I've seen a lot of tools that maybe seem on a proof of concept or still in development. What are your thoughts about that?
So I don't think many of them are I don't, one thing is, how do you specify AI? So I think that's the other question. Sometimes it's it's kind of merged with automation. Sometimes the companies that we worked with in 2018 didn't say they were AI companies. They said they were automation and optimizing our processes, but now they say they're AI. So it is a very interesting subject matter to go deep, but I can tell you that upcodes in our workflow, and they have a ChatGPT type interface inside in terms of asking questions. We have been looking across all of our existing product lines, right? Microsoft, we're using Copilot, Adobe, we're using all of their released AI setups. Certainly on the design, and we're using all the multiple rendering products or foundation models. We're using Veras's Evolve Labs, Veras, and a couple of other things. So, but none of them, I mean, this is a difficult, it's a challenging problem overall. And also it's very challenging to answer what is the impact of all of those, because all of it is really in pretty beginning stages. And generally, we're always are very excited short term, but can't see the long term, can't keep the excitement long term. So it is very important that we can balance it. That's what we're trying to do: balance expectations, balance, and keep going. That's all we're trying to do at the moment. Stay in touch, work with founders. Sometimes they present problems that I don't really have. I don't know what they're doing. It is a very interesting ecosystem. I think 10 years ago, we had no choices like this. We had nothing. Okay, we had Revit and a few other things, and therefore no intent to. One or two things would change mildly. Do you want to use Twinmotion? Do you want to use Enscape or whatever? But I think a phenomenal change is coming through. And all we're trying to do is stay knowledgeable, educate our people, stay knowledgeable, try out things, contribute in the ecosystem.
Well said. Yeah, it indeed feels there's kind of a boom of new apps and startups. And it's true also that for a while it felt a little bit stale, the offerings.
Okay. Now there is, I don't know what that list, the AEC, AI in AEC list. That's getting, I don't know, last time I checked, it was 1,300. I don't know whether it climbed to 2,000, but I think we went from one extreme to the other, within a year, within 18 months.
Yeah, it can be a bit hard right now to see the signal from the noise, right? There's so much going on.
It's very hard. It's very hard to do signal. And also, it's very hard if our teams are disappointed. It's very hard to bring them back on the same tool. That's what I think the startups have to collaborate with us, because they're like, let's go. And there isn't that much to let's go on. And once obstacles are put in our users' hands, I know they're going to go back and fix it. And I have to tell you that it's been refreshing to work with founders where there is a problem and we report, and the next week it's solved. So it's a very different environment that we've ever been in. And but equally so, I want to balance it with my users where they're not fed up with it and they're not spending all this time and wasting it. And specifically coming back to the same tool is a huge challenge. If they lose trust, they're not going back unless there is a phenomenal change. So our group with the design technology team, we're trying to be the barrier, test what we can, filter through. But some things like this are really platform-based decisions, that our team can contribute. The design technology team can somewhat contribute, but it really has to come from our project architects, from the users of the details, from the people who are in the trenches every day issuing CDs and DDs. And the risk for decisions like this is that these are office-wide decisions. Whether you want to use Veras today or Enscape tomorrow, these things flip fairly easily, but something like this does not. You either go through all the way or decide that that's not going to work, but leaving an entire office process not working is a much more riskier than say, okay, there is a new tool out there, whereas now you're not going to use this other tool and we're going to start rendering in another way. So those are easier implementations. These are more riskier implementations.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you want to keep going? Oh, live demo.
Yeah.
That's your turn, Nick.
This is probably a good transition, and I think everyone can see why we were so drawn to CBT and Nirva to our
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how much you're getting on there and working with the startups.
Yeah, so I'm going to show the live demo of D.TO. Just switch to the screen. Everyone see Revit to the left and D.TO to the right?
Yep.
Awesome.
So can you clarify D.TO is it's a Revit plugin?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, definitely. It's actually a web-based platform that our dev team has hosted into Revit framework as a plugin. So if you're a Revit user, you're using it in Revit plugin via plugin. If you're a non-Revit user, you can still collaborate and communicate through D.TO's platform on the web platform as well. Does that answer your question, Nicholas?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I have actually launched this from up here. Once you've downloaded D.TO's plugin, it's going to be its own. Let me open this a little bit. Its own ribbon tab, and then under here you'll see the D.TO platform tutorial link to our tutorials videos, and then we have a user manual that's pretty in-depth that also has links to tutorials to get you started on the platform. So the D.TO workflow, and let me set the stage here. You're either a new employee coming in or a junior architect with a little experience. You've modeled your project enough to get renderings, to get the client's approval, and now it's time to enter that DD and CD phase. And your senior architect tasks you with cartooning out the drawing set. So we start cutting sections. We start cutting our callouts to all our details. And then this is the point where the new person or the junior architect says, okay, so I got a wall type EWA 3MR horizontal, this flat roof, concrete slab. I need to figure out exactly what these systems are. I start Googling to find, or go through container files to find that detail. Or I go to my senior architect and say, what should I use for this detail? So all this at the beginning, the asking of what and how is a very time-consuming process that is done for every detail, for every project. And that's where D.TO solution comes in. So what you do is you create a new project in D.TO. We're linking to that project, setting some general information, but the real takeaway is project classification, where you set climate zone, construction type, and use and occupancy. And these are based on US market code. And we will, as we continue D.TO, we will be adding other regions' project classification. But what this is doing is going to tailor some of the design guidance in details, and the company library smart indexing allows you to upload to those project classifications. So once you, and I already have one created, BIM Pure demonstration, and I've set all that information here. And then the next step would be invite all your project team members, because D.TO is a collaborative environment where you're working with the entire team through DD and CD. And we have a really user-friendly interface where all our features are to the left in this ribbon. From our projects, libraries, we announce when we're uploading new details to the platform or new features, and then links to our tutorials, and then a direct link for our users to provide feedback. And the next step is to create a design session. So this design session is one-to-one to a Revit callout, and this is the entry point to the entire workflow throughout D.TO. We're architects. Like the detail is the center and should be the center of the workflow, and that's what we've created as the entry point. So to create one of these design sessions, we go create design session, and then we're linking to that Revit view. And then we go to that next step. So you can manually fill out our detail classification, but this is where D.TO's AI comes in to support the architect. Again, my EWA 3MR horizontal, I don't know exactly what this is. Maybe a very junior architect, and I need to start executing this detail. So we run our smart classification. And because you've put the time into modeling these wall types, roof types, what we're doing is analyzing those system families, the relationship between the system families, 2 or more, and then suggesting one condition within the D.TO catalog. So D.TO has around 200 conditions. So these are transitions that an architect would have to, at some point or another, develop in a project or across multiple projects. So we suggest that condition based on our AI agent, and we built that. Everything that we've built is internal, and we're not accessing or collecting or using user data. So based on our AI agent suggesting that condition, and then from there, our AI agent is suggesting what outer and inner module should be for that assembly exterior wall. So a rain screen with a metal framing backing. And then it does the same thing for the flat roof. So membrane roofing and concrete on metal deck. And then here, all we have to do is review that information and then create design session and go to our design guidance. So the first feature that our interactive diagram is utilizing is design guidance, and we're using an interactive diagram to show one reference detail of how to execute this with high performance building envelope in mind. So you're learning about thermal spacer, you're clicking on thermal spacer, what is continuous insulation, what is a deflection track, what is a rain screen, so that you're learning more as you're interacting and engaging with the diagram. And then also we have dimensional information, like say parapet requirements. Why do we have the certain height? When it gets over a certain height, what requirements are needed, with links to the IBC and IACC, so that the architect can learn more, but also have all the information needed to make educated design decisions to execute this detail. And then those global parameters that we set at the beginning, we have information about construction type and also insulation requirements. So
yeah, that was one of my question. At which point do you set the the building location, and so is that for each detail, or is that set at the project level?
So at the project level, the climate zone is based on location in the U.S. market. So like when we develop for other regions, we'll have like those classifications available for users to select. But for now, we just have US market available for this. Does that answer your question, Nicholas?
Yeah, it does. So it's set at the project level, and
Yeah.
then it does research for each kind of the building code of the country, but also local requirements, for example.
We don't have local requirements. This is very overarching general information that is where architects are able to access that reference rather than accessing it through internet or through just your code book, a physical code book. So it's having all that information that you would need as you're working on these details at your fingertips.
And so that's one of the details. Can you show me again where you can pick from the list the different kinds of wall assemblies?
Yeah, so you can edit that classification. And for exterior wall, we have a face seal, the rain screen, veneer, and insulated wall panel. But the smart classification we're using is reading all that your system families and then providing a detail from our library to use.
Yes. So in that case, it was like a metal siding, I think. So where can you decide, for example, is it based on the Revit materials, or it's just that you pick in the huge library of, let's say, wood siding, metal with different kind of backings?
So yeah, and again, I don't want to talk too much about the AI model that we developed, but say this is a rain screen classification, not necessarily a metal, a terracotta, a cementitious rain screen material, because that comes into products later on. But a rain screen would typically have, your exterior insulation, a cavity layer, and then some sort of finished material. So since the layering of your system family is set up that way, and we've trained our model that this is or potentially could be the rain screen, then that's what we're suggesting. And especially with like metal framing backing, CMU backing, concrete backing, those are all things that are going to change the detail. And D.TO has 750 details currently in our platform and users can access, but our end goal is 4,500 for exterior envelope details. And then we're going to move to interior detailing as well. And we already have in our company library the ability to smart index your interior details as well. Although D.TO hasn't developed those details for design guidance.
But the firms can upload their own details, right?
Yeah. And that's been one of the beginning of the pilot with CBT is bringing enough details into their company library or D.TO's company library smart index so they can begin utilizing it on a project and see the impact of, by smart indexing, by providing the right detail at the right time, this is empowering our junior architects, our new employees, and they are saving time and learning more. And there's, I just remember being a junior architect and being nervous at my desk and never wanting to ask the question or be embarrassed because I didn't know about something. Like, if we can pass that, we can all come to a better, a more knowledgeable, robust conversation.
Yeah, and it's also contextual. Like, we have a very organized library. We spend months putting those things together, but we still have the adoption issue, people using them. But do not have any contextual information with it, So I think that's where the value is here, not just the detail itself, but how it's positioning to learn more about what you're doing. Because a typical junior person is going to copy the detail without kind of having a little bit of a logic to it until they start learning about it.
So the idea is that you could upload your own details and then the AI would match the Revit model, the simple Revit model, to an actual detail from your own firm, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yep. So that's actually part of the demo. So
okay.
yeah.
I was also curious to see what happens in Revit the moment you bring it.
Yeah, so you can bring it in from D.TO. So for CAD users, which is probably not the best forum for that, we offer DWG, but then we also offer our interactive diagram as a drafting view that's all BIM components. So everything is a BIM component, no lines, no filled regions. And we're doing this so that, again, we're focusing on that US market. And we have a nice view fetcher so that you don't have to navigate your project browser to then copy into your live callout those components, and then you're able to align to your 3D. And then it becomes a tool back and forth that, you know, not every project is the same, but the DNA, the components that are needed to create that detail are typically, most of the time, are there, where you can then begin manipulating to your certain project conditions. 3D may change, 2D may change, but the idea is that you have a set of components that you can easily manipulate and as soon as you bring it into your project. And then again, set up with that US market keynoting system that you're able to then just immediately start keynoting your drawing.
Yeah, so for example, recently Autodesk finally released a content catalog that they've done with Unifier. What I'm seeing here, it's a bit like content catalog, but you have the AI on top of it. So instead of manually browsing to look for a detail, you have some help to match it, where you don't have to pick it manually from the huge list, right?
Yeah, and we're also providing not just a content management solution, but a design guidance mentoring with the content, with the BIM integration. And then once products come in and specifications come in, then it becomes a collaborative environment for manufacturers and architects that is beyond just content management.
Yeah, I think that's the very unique thing. You know, you asked Nicholas before, like, hey, are you using the AI tools? You know, on the front end, there is so much, you know, in terms of feasibility studies, design renderings, and so many products that have overlapping. You know, a lot of them do similar things, slightly different. But this unique design guidance is really the unique. It's not a, you know, we have content management tools. We are also experimenting with the one that Autodesk put out, but we have another content management tool, but it's not the same because the design guidance, or because they're working with, you know, facade envelope design consultants who are giving information here, you know? So this is not just details, like I said, the copy and paste somewhere because we use it on an X and Y project. So it is a unique property so far that we've seen.
Yeah, so you mentioned these are made in collaboration with envelope experts.
Yeah, so we work with Studio NYL. They're a facade consultant, facade designer. Architects would hire them to consult on high performance building envelopes, especially very complex designs, very ornate designs, but they are peer reviewing our details. So at D.TO, our content team is producing all the BIM, the detail components and composing the details, but they're reviewing for to be high performance building envelope details and the design guidance that were included in the platform. So
I see.
Yeah. Any other questions on that?
Let's see. Well, there's some people asking about integration from other regions of the world, such as Europe. Or for myself, I could ask about Canada.
Yeah, definitely. It comes back to that project classification at the beginning. Our main focus has been US market and then especially commercial construction. But D.TO is an evolving company. We're always adding content, always adding design guidance, and the goal is to expand globally. And then collect all those regulations and codes and bring them onto the platform. But to set the base, we're starting with the US market and then piloting with firms like CBT to really nail down the tool and our roadmap. And then we can start adding those other codes and regulations. Yeah, so.
There's an interesting question from Infamous Style. Light to the call, does this also turn PDFs into Revit details? So
It does not turn PDF into Revit details. No, unfortunately, no.
yeah, but okay, does the AI just kind of look at the image of the view, or it would also look at the wall, look at all the materials included in the wall to figure out what details need to be can be recommended?
Is that what you say? Was that a question?
Yeah, yeah. I was wondering
Yes. So
because
it's
differently, is it based on an image or it's based on like everything included inside of Revit walls and all the components?
it's everything that's included in the Revit walls and
I
the
see. Yeah.
components to
Hmm.
provide that. What we're not doing is, say, if you have your model is set to 4 inches insulation, our details are average three inches because it's between zone 7 and zone 4. Maybe a roadmap, and it might give Johan, our CTO, a little heart attack right now. But if we could have our components expand and contract, that would be like the North Star future AI. But for now, we want to empower architects' workflow by providing the components, the DNA, the detail, the design guidance so that they can manipulate to their project conditions rather than have the AI just produce the detail 100% for you. We bring it to 85%. You take the 15% rest of the way.
Yeah, you're talking
Yeah.
about the little stretch that you did in Revit,
Yeah.
the Revit
Yeah.
model. Yeah.
Say if your insulation was modeled another inch, could our AI understand that and automatically set that pull over all these components the other inch? But that is North Star. Until then, like I said, we're bringing in that DNA so that and having the components so that you can easily manipulate to your project conditions. And then if there are any components that aren't in the original diagram, we have a BIM library. So all our components, we're around 850 components available, where you can use, again, this entry point, everything centered around the drawing, to click and then isolate components that are relevant to that in the D.TO catalog, and then using a click place as well to place components, and anything that's industry standard comes with types, and again, that keynoting information. So the entire workflow is made to streamline and then be a support system for the architect as they're detailing.
Okay, so in addition to finding details, it's also a collection of high quality detailed components for Revit, which is I've worked with firms and it's always a struggle to find good detailed components, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think even if you don't have a collected detail library or something, there's so much in there to start one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
and some of our users are going from CAD to Revit, or have been in Revit for quite some time, but have a detail library of CAD details that the workflow currently is bringing those CAD details into each project, but utilizing D.TO's content, we can't take that DWG and turn it into Revit components. That might be North Star and give Johan another heart attack, but uh, we can easily use the library, set a design classification for the detail you're working on, isolate those components, and then trace over those details to then create your new Revit library.
Okay, just give me a sec here. Any more features that you really wanted to show? I can see there are a few
Yeah,
questions.
yeah. I don't know if you want to hold questions till the end. We can go through the last two features.
Yeah, I can show last a couple of features and then we can go ahead with some more questions.
Okay, so if you have, most firms do, like CBT has an exceptional company library and details already prepared and ready to go for your employees to utilize. We have a company library feature where you're uploading details to our system and our streamlined delivery pipeline. So you're adding those climate zones, you're adding the construction type and use and occupancy for country. Other regions of the world, you can add just general. So if it's just general and it doesn't match up, then you can still utilize our company library. and then selecting that condition in modules. And then this is like one of my favorite features is the design guidance of your firm. So your senior architect is working on the detail that you're uploading, and there's a QA QC checklist, images from the construction site, because my experience learning construction detailing with images like this is very beneficial. It's very helpful. So adding that information there and then uploading that detail to the company library, where we stand out from other content management where a user comes in and filters and needs to search for that detail and know what they're searching for, is that while they're in the project, say they need to come and work on this detail, this is their starting point again. This is where they have to go find what they're going to work on. But since your company or your admin BIM team has curated, uploaded that detail, you're creating that design session, linking to the view, and then going to that next step and running that smart classification. And with knowing very little about this detail, we'll be able to get that condition, those modules, the curtain wall. This is grade concrete and generic finished flooring, concrete on slab. Yeah, that's what we want. And then creating that design session and instantaneously receiving that company library detail that you uploaded, so that you have D.TO's design guidance, an interactive diagram, D.TO's BIM library components, and that company library detail that you can reference, see that design guidance as you're working on this detail, and then import this into your project with the same delivery pipeline as D.TO.
Can you talk a little bit about the color code that we see, like in this image, for example? Is it based on the
this here?
Different divisions, yeah?
Yeah, so this is really just D.TO standard graphics, but a lot of these are D.TO's colors. But insulation is always yellow, blue is always like a supportive component, pink is really finish. But there's the real information is in the hover components and then the actual design guidance for those as well. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
And
any more features you wanted to showcase?
Yeah, based on like what you just said about products. So components in our products tab we isolate CSI divisions. Again, this is US market, but CSI divisions that are related to those components. So this also becomes a learning experience for architects where I wish I learned the CSI system when I first started as a junior designer, when you typically don't learn it until you're experienced in construction detailing and gone through the pain points. But we make it so that you click on a component and then explore products from there. So we're currently onboarding manufacturers, and we're onboarding a series of parameters so that the architect can review and then the documents so that they can make a decision on if I want to implement this into my project. And future roadmap is to have manufacturers bring their details and their components to D.TO's delivery pipeline. So if you set, say, that company as a basis of design, you're now receiving the reference detail for this specific design session and the components you would need to execute this type of detail. So, and that's the D.TO workflow as it currently is. And we do have a quite extensive roadmap that if at any point after this session, just reach out to us and we'd be happy to answer any questions. And thank you, Nirva, for joining me.
Yeah, Nirva, how have you been using the tools and what are your thoughts about it?
We are at the beginning stages. Nick is helping upload the library. We have two potential two projects that are going to pilot this. So we have a team, two teams trying to regularly schedule meetings. I think it's a bit early to say how it's going to evolve. Like I said, we usually make the engagements on promise, and this does have a lot of promise and uniqueness. It's not unlike other products, but there is a small niche here that I haven't seen anywhere else in terms of collecting assets. There's more to it. And like I said, these are individuals that have been relatively not engaged in the AI train, so they're getting introduced to that now in their line of work instead of just showing them, hey, look at how the designers are using it. They're doing these marvelous renderings. Is that it's coming down to them.
Yeah, it's right that most AI tools seems to be more early phase or for renderings, feasibility studies, and not so much on
Well, because
this part, right?
these are difficult ones to implement. Like I said, this process is team-wide, office-wide. You have to get your data correct. It's very different than the design end of things, which is the outcomes are instantaneous there, Nichols. Like, hey, I got all these 200 versions of the design that happen in 5 seconds versus me spending rendering time multiple times to render the model, right? So at least it's an ideation tool, but these are hard problems to solve, and we'd like to be engaged in it and get the outcomes that we want. So I think we have to do another one in 6 months to give you the real outcomes.
All right. Ready for some questions?
I agree. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. The two different people are asking where does the content live? Is it on a server? Is it on the cloud? How does that work?
It's on the cloud. Both the company library details that you upload on the cloud, but only visible to people that are in your team or organization. And then same with D.TO's content's also on the cloud. Yeah.
From Greg McDowell Jr. Looking forward to giving it a spin. How does it work with the not so great model?
So because we're building our own model, we are actually building in those not so great, especially when our focus is on inexperienced users. Our models tend to not be, they're not the models that Nicholas is probably putting together. Let's just put it that way. So we've built that into our model to predict, like if assemblies aren't touching each other, crossing each other, and not the right orientation, we'll still predict that condition in those modules as well. So
another one from Infamous Style. So it has its own detailed components and will bring them to the projects or use the components that live in the model. So what I understand is that you have built your own collection of detailed components in Revit, and that's what's being imported. Any way that users could say, well, we do have our own detail items, they would have to upload the entire detail like you've showcased?
So yeah, it's a great question. We have gotten that question from many firms, and that's something that we've put on the roadmap sooner than later. So that you have your details, and the components that have composed those details can also be uploaded to D.TO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see. Question from Keith Blair. Is the company library available to all D.TO users or only within that certain company?
Just that certain company. If you're uploading to your company library, we have it. When you first sign up for D.TO, you're creating a team organization, and under that team organization, you're assigning seats to those users within your organization, and only those users within those. Even D.TO doesn't have any access to see your company library at all. Just your organization.
Okay, looking to see if there are more questions. Yeah, there were another question from Drew Chamberlain. Is the company library data privacy maintained, or do you use these to train and inform details you create at D.TO? So is any data from the users or the company using the AI models?
No, not at all.
Okay. Yeah, another one from Infamous Style. Say once a detail is brought into the project and then modified to be project specific, does that get pumped back into the detail library to be used later in different projects?
So if you brought a DTO and manipulated to those components, you could instantaneously upload that back to your company library with that same classification, so that next time you would get the original DTO, but you'd have the one that you've manipulated
So it
to
would
utilize for this way.
it would be like two different options you can pick from,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
original one and the modified one.
And DTO right now has one, we're calling it variation or variation. So we're showing one solution, but as we develop and add content, you might notice that there are design sessions that have 2 or 3 solutions, because, I mean, it could be infinite solutions there. So that's why we developed the company library, and what that workflow would do is you manipulating and bringing it back in for further use or future use. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a constant search in a firm of what projects used what detail, so sometimes there is a history of knowledge in the firm where they know every project what used, but the junior people have no idea what project to open and look at.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, more questions. If you have master detail file already with hundreds of details, how long would it take to upload them correctly to your library so they can be analyzed properly?
So I've timed myself to do about 20 details in like 10 minutes, I think it was 20 details in 10 minutes. But the AI agent that we've developed for smart classification, we're actually, and at AU, we're hoping to release this, because we have a booth at Autodesk University this year, is
Oh, really? Okay.
auto smart indexing those details, where it will be one click. We're creating an AI agent to understand how that detail should fit into our classification system, and what you're doing is just reviewing and then uploading to that. And that was actually very much suggested by CBT and Nirva to make a more efficient
Currently,
way.
it's manual, a little cumbersome at the moment, but not after October or something.
Yeah, very, very soon.
So like I said, part of working with the startup ecosystem is a bit of faster turnaround of things.
Yeah. What kind of AI are you using for this? Is it a large language model, or is it something different, more like these images model? Or something completely different?
I was gonna say I have to zip my mouth closed right now, but no. We're using a few different, and if that's something that somebody wants to have a further conversation with, I'd say reach out, and our CTO, Johan, would hop on a call and be more than happy to have that discussion with you about that. So I'm not the AI expert, but I do know a lot of things, but I don't want to overcross my boundary. Yeah. So.
Okay. Someone are asking about the roadmap, I guess. Anticipated new features and version. Do you have any public roadmap, or it's a bit of a secret? Well, some of the things you mentioned during the show, but
yeah, we do. We have collaborative feature. We also have product selection and specification, not specification creation, but management, where you're saying, I want this type of rain screen, and you set that as basis of design, then you're getting that rain screen manufacturer's details and components to execute your drawings. And there's a few other, especially with the AI, and I can quickly sneak peek, is our first AI phase is, now I'm gonna have to draw a new section for this, is individual components at the individual level. But imagine taking that AI model to the next level and identifying all the details that you need to execute in that drawing, creating the callouts, then creating all the design sessions, and then starting your cartoon set from all my detail, especially if your company library is curated, you'd have all these details to about 85% of the way there in one click. So that's something that is on the roadmap for AI. And then there's a few other features that I won't get into today, but maybe in the future we can have a conversation about that.
For sure. Okay, I think it's going to be it for today's question. If people have more, they can reach out to the team directly, isn't it?
Yes,
And
yes, definitely.
is there a free trial? Or how does that work if people want to try the tool?
Yes, there is a free trial. What you do is you can use the QR code, and this is a BIM Pure special form, but also get on our website and you can request a free trial, and Taylor, our business development lead, would get on a call with you, I think it's like a 10-minute call to set you up with a free trial, answer any quick questions, and that's our free trial process. So.
All right, and I'll give us a shout out to Stepan Mikulic that is watching live.
Hey, Stefan.
Yeah, I think I first heard about.
Of course he is. He's everywhere.
I think I first heard of D.TO with him when I did a live show earlier this year with Stepan.
Yeah, he did. We had met with him, and right after he started AI and AEC, very excited to meet him. Yeah.
So you said you're going to be at Autodesk University. I'm also going to be there, so I'm gonna jump in at the booth for sure.
Yeah, definitely excited to meet you in person.
Okay, so let me just bring this to an end. I'll mention a couple of things, and then we can close this off. Just a moment. Okay, so first, thanks a lot to our sponsor, Guardian, to protect your company's standards and keep your best practices alive and keep healthy Revit models. Learn more. There's a link in the video description to learn more about Guardian. Else check out the BIM Pure membership. Next week episode is going to be with Paul Winter, Australian friend, and the name of the episode is Rethinking BIM. It's Wednesday, but this one is at 8 p.m. Eastern. And back to our guests. Thank you so much to both of you. Any final word or mention that you wanted to say before we close this off?
My final word is try and encourage our startup ecosystem, but I also would like to see some of the startups work together. So there's a lot out there. And there were some good questions about PDFs getting turned into Revit, and the answer was they don't do it, but there are other companies who do it. So I think it's it'll be prudent if we encourage collaboration in every aspect. I think that's a win-win for everybody.
That's a beautiful message. I love it.
Yeah. It's hard to follow, but thank you, Nicholas. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to be on the show.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Thanks to both of you, and thanks for everyone tuning in live and asking a great question as usual. So next episode next week at 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, it's an evening show, at least for those of you in the US or North America. All right. See you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.